this weekend or this last couple of days. Some of them have known a little bit longer, but we are here today to talk to you all about developer relations. What is it, the ins and outs, and most importantly, answer some of your burning questions as well. So we are live right now on Twitch, we are on LinkedIn and YouTube. So please come in, comment your questions. I'll be taking questions from the audience as well. But before we get into all that, we should introduce ourselves, shouldn't we? Hi everyone, I'm Mish. I'm coming to you from Australia, came all the way out here from Australia. We are live from San Francisco right now, and I'm on the developer relations team at GitHub. So we're gonna go around the table this way. You can basically do the same thing, but I also want a fun fact about yourself.
Which I can do. Hey friends, I'm Mark, Senior Developer Relations Engineer at Google, and I'm here in San Francisco. Fun fact about myself, I am in a movie and I had a scene with Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, we are coming back to that. We are coming back to that.
How do I follow that? I am no one, and there are no fun facts. Done.
This is also untrue, I know.
I'm Rain Leander. I'm a developer advocate with Cockroach Labs. And fun fact, I just moved back to the US, having lived in Central Europe in the Netherlands for 10 years.
That was a fun fact.
That's a fun fact.
Welcome back. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Is that, yes. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Lars. I'm a developer relations with Pluralsight.
Right.
Fun fact. Oh, which one? I have a room full of Lego.
Whoa.
Don't we all?
I have an actual room, which was my old office, so it's bigger than my bedroom, that is full of Lego.
Let's go.
It's for the children.
What's
Relax.
the rough
course,
number of
of course.
sets that you have?
What is the number of sets?
Complete sets.
Complete sets?
Approximately.
I don't know. A couple hundred.
Couple hundred, yeah.
Ooh,
That's
That's
brilliant.
pretty legit.
Good
I
on
still
you.
have my 1986, 85 space Lego as well.
Wow, that's,
Okay.
that's cool. It's well before I was even on this planet.
Gee, thanks.
I was gonna say, and then here I am, like,
Age bomb. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. That's where we are.
nice.
All right.
All right. And I am Aisha Blake. I am Director of Developer Relations at Pluralsight. Fun fact. Ooh. See, my go-to fun fact is that I can unicycle and I can juggle. Not at the same time. Still.
Okay, have you got one here? Did you bring a unicycle?
I should have.
Oh.
You know, that was on me.
Well,
I'm
I brought
sorry.
one here.
Here's something I prepared earlier. Now I want to come back to this Dustin Hoffman thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Please,
Like,
please
yeah,
elaborate.
DevRel, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Come on,
That's
we can
what
talk
I was
about
looking
DevRel
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
people. Yeah,
So,
that's
true
fine.
story. So I was in graduate school at University of Chicago, and then they filmed the movie Stranger Than Fiction at that campus. And so they just grabbed me and was like, hey, you're a student, which I actually was. They grabbed me and said, hey, go into this room. And then Dustin Hoffman walks in. And they're like, okay, you two are gonna do the scene together. They were like, okay, we want you to read a book, and he's gonna lecture you. And he improvs this whole like 5-minute scene of lecturing me. And I'm trying not to laugh because he's throwing in jokes, he's being super nice. And at the end of it, he goes, it was a pleasure working with you. And I'm like, me? I'm like nobody, right? So, and then here's the best part, or I guess the worst part of the story, is that they actually cut that scene from the movie, which is why I'm not in Hollywood being a famous actor right now, is because they cut the scene from the movie.
That's-
Did you ever get the footage or anything
Oh,
like that?
nothing like that. All I got was a nice
Signature?
craft services lunch because on movie sets, the lunch is phenomenal. I think I had like ahi tuna and like really brilliant food. So that is my takeaway. But yeah, I'm in the movie Stranger Than Fiction. You can actually see me walk by in a couple of scenes if you're careful.
Yeah.
All right, that is much better than my like college movie set experience. This was the first October after I moved to New York from Florida, and I didn't realize how cold it could get. And so they had told us to dress as if it were summer. And I was like, oh, no problem. I got this. I show up in my little green dress with my books, and I'm ready. And I was miserable all day.
Oh my gosh.
What movie was that for?
I think it was Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, let's go.
Nice.
So can we find you if we look hard enough?
You can see my hair in the back of the scene.
I love that. That's
All the
awesome.
students, yep.
One more question I'll ask. Again, going back to Dustin. What did he teach you about?
Yeah.
Was it developer relations? Is that why you're here today?
He was just like, Mark, if you're going to be in DevRel, you have to serve the community. It just has to be what you do. And I'm Dustin Hoffman, and I know that's what you need to do. But
Is that why you were trying not to laugh?
oh no, he was just like he was just saying a lot of weird stuff. He was like personifying body parts, like, well, the finger, the finger has a really different personality. He's just like really making stuff up. And it was just really weird. And I was just like, man, why is Dustin Hoffman talking to me right now? Like, how is this my actual life? And it was just really incredible. He shook my hand, like I said, at the end he shook my hand and was like, hey, great working with you. And I'm just like, I'm about to be famous. I did not become famous.
And you're like, cut.
And they're like, cut. Okay, now go back outside and go put it in the book bag and walk past to the next scene. I'm like, oh, man. All right.
Well, we could talk about movies all day and random cool things that we're starting, but we are here to talk about developer relations. You kind of started touching on it. Thanks, Dustin Hoffman, for those words of advice on developer relations. But people often ask, DevRel, yeah, that sounds cool. That's like a cool job. What does DevRel do? What do you do in DevRel?
Yeah.
So I thought we'd kick off the conversation by talking about, like, what is developer relations? Who wants to start?
I literally just had an old friend of mine ask me this. We've known each other for 30 years. I am that old. And I came, my standard response, he is in tech, and so I know I can get a little bit deeper with the tech side of things, but I said it's effectively relationships enabling users, developers, anybody to use a specific project or product, etc. And the conversation that happened after that, started with wait, but, and then several sentences that were completely off. And so obviously, I am saying all this to say I am not qualified, obviously, to answer this question. But again, I will attempt to say, the thing is that developer relations was originally founded to enable developers, which is why we say developer relationships.
Developers.
Yes. The thing is that projects, they have realized the importance of the end user, of the operator, of the architect, as well as the developer. And so even though we say DevRel and we've still got developer in that title, it's really people. We're just trying to enable people to interact in some way with a piece of technology through our relationships with them. And relationships is used to encompass that broad scope of, it could be how you and I know each other personally because we both live in the same place. It could be that
is true.
you and I know each other because we follow each other on Twitter, or it could be that we have a relationship because I wrote a piece of documentation that you used. So the relationship side is also a huge umbrella. And that means that we end up doing a lot.
No kidding.
A lot.
I think that I'll try and find it while we're having a conversation about this. Somebody was saying, this person walked into a bar and the person, just it's talking about marketing. I'll find it in a minute. But one of the TLDRs I have heard is developer relations is marketing without the sales KPIs. So I think that's kind of an interesting way to think about it. But what are our thoughts on that?
I can pitch in. So I'm officially very new to developer relations. I'd be talking 6 months roughly.
Oh, cool.
Maybe 8 months.
Welcome.
Yeah. But the funny thing is I've now realized that since doing it officially, I've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's exactly what you said. It's talking to people, it's forming the relationships, which I've been doing forever, at speaking at conferences and organizing conferences, and Twitter as an example, or platforms that we share with people, such as product platforms or whatever. So even though I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into, I kind of did. It's very odd. It's a very roundabout way of getting into DevRel.
Yeah.
And then I get to work with Aisha, who's been in DevRel for much longer than me. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense now. I get what you're saying because it's now we have the context for it, right? So, yeah, it's. I think it means many different things to different people. I think that's very vague, though, isn't it? Sorry, people.
I think that's an interesting point, though, about the whole, I've been doing it officially for this many months,
Yeah.
but I've kind of unofficially been doing it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, because, you know, the term developer relations hasn't been around,
It's very new.
you know, all too
Yeah.
long. So a lot of people have been doing it for quite a while. You know, software and, you know, web technology has been around for, you know, a couple of decades now, but the term developer relations wasn't.
I just do it naturally.
Well, that's the thing, right? The people who are really good at it do it naturally, I
Yeah.
think.
I don't know if I'm good at it, but I do it.
Well, and
I think you're good at it.
And I also think that before the term developer relations, there was also the tech evangelist or developer evangelist space.
Yeah.
And that's a very loaded term for people. So I like
Yeah.
that we've moved away from that term. But I met people like years ago who that's what they were doing, even before.
Technical evangelist.
Yeah, technical
I need
evangelist,
a much better
yeah.
nylon suit for that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's right. And when I think about DevRel, developer relations, or DevRel for short, for me, for Mark, like my approach is all about service. Who can I serve, right? And so if I approach it from a service point of view, then I'm going to be thinking about how I can best support you to be successful and happy. And then if I'm serving the framework team who like maybe writes the code of the tool, I should be serving them as well to get them the best information and get that feedback, right? Because otherwise, nobody wins, right? We can continue to make a product that we love, but if the people are giving feedback and we're not bringing it back to the teams, you know, it's a missed opportunity.
Yes.
Right, and we talk about relations, the relationships between all these different people, and I think it is tempting to think that, oh, that means I need to be at the center of all of these relationships, and that's not the case. I'll say that.
No, really not.
It's you're creating these connections, but it doesn't have to directly involve you, and that's, you know, I'm getting real meta. This is largely what we're doing here at this event. At Link, we're saying, hey, we appreciate all of you. Like, thank you for the service that you have given to this community, to the tech industry as a whole. We think that that's valuable. Here are some other people who are doing incredible work as well. Have at them. Like, can make your own connections and build from there.
So I have a question for you then. I'm so sorry.
No,
you jump in.
go. Please, this is a conversation here, so please ask each other questions as much as possible.
So, and this is for you, and then please, I want everyone's feedback.
Sure.
How do you remove yourself from being the center? Because one of the draws of DevRel is being popular. You get your Twitter followers, you're on stage, right? You get recognized, and people wait to talk to you because they see you.
Yeah.
How do you get away from that, you know, when you're in the moment?
Yeah, I think that being intentional about sponsoring other people is a huge part of that. I've been very, very, very lucky in my life and my career to have had incredible people kind of step up for me and to put me into spaces where I wouldn't have been able to get myself. And so now that I'm a little bit further into my career and I have the ability to do that for other people, I make it a point to do it as often as I can. So, you know, in the context of Link, that was inviting people who have had an impact on me or who I could see beginning to open up and serve their own communities in that way. It might be saying, hey, you know, I'm maybe not right for that speaking opportunity, but, you know, I know somebody who's incredible. Why don't you reach out to so-and-so, or I'll make the introduction. And that, even more so than, you know, things like mentorship or creating scholarship opportunities, which are valuable. Like, that for me is my way of saying, here, this is a connection I think should exist, and I'm back away.
Yeah, yeah. It's introducing people who wouldn't have known each other. I don't like the popularity that comes with being a public speaker.
That's the only reason I do it.
I mean, Lars and I are day and night. They should call Lars Sunshine. But I'm serious though. Like a certain level of popularity and people recognizing me that I don't know them, that stresses. That's actually genuinely
Okay.
anxiety driving.
Yeah.
I would rather find your blog post and highlight that. That says amazing things, and here's what I love about it, and look at what Aisha's doing. Oh my gosh, Lars, have you seen his video? That's the kind of advocacy that I like to do within the community that I work with.
I have a slightly different approach. I think it's contextual.
Yes.
So I don't mind being on the stage and talking to 200 people, and they're looking at me if I can provide value that way. But say an event like Link, it's more of a, hey, Rain, have you met Mark? And then I walk off, right?
Yes.
So it depends on the context of how we want that interaction to happen. So if it's me that has to be on the stage and whatever you say, I've followed you forever, fine, I'll be that person as well. I'm okay with that. If that's where the value is. But having that pivot point at somewhere is really important.
Yeah.
But I like the popularity, and I'll tell you why. Because
Is
of
it
what
Dustin Hoffman?
because of Dustin Hoffman. That's right.
Inspired.
Well, because of what it allows me to do,
Yeah.
the reach that I get to have,
Yeah.
and
I
the
agree.
impact I get to have. So when you look up to someone
Yep.
and you admire their work, and then they say, "Hey, I believe in you," and they actually mean it,
Yeah.
like that could be the difference from you potentially like not pursuing something, or like, "Hey, maybe I can do this." And so, but like with great power comes great responsibility, right? You become popular, you do have to like mind your ego, you have to mind all those things. But I personally feel like the more people that I can like reach, and I can spread the message of like encouragement and hope toward like being successful in your career, it's hard to do that with only
Totally. You
100
extend
followers.
You extend
Yeah.
your privilege, right?
Right.
I
Or I
think
get to
that's-
extend my privilege.
I think that's something that I've really loved at GitHub and how we've kind of changed over the years is like there's a real emphasis now, especially in the DevRel team, is to go out and grow your own social media followings
Yep.
for that exact reason.
Yes.
The more people you can get to, you can have on your own personal channels,
That's exactly
the more
what
you can bring
I was
to
about to say.
GitHub that aren't already in GitHub, because the GitHub channels have all the GitHub
that's right.
super fans in them
Totally.
everywhere. So it's about bringing those new people along too. And back to your point of like, highlighting other people. That's my favorite thing in DevRel is being able to, find those other people, whether it's, GitHub stars or
Yeah.
somebody who's built this really cool open source project or someone who's written a brilliant tutorial on, GitHub Actions or something like that, and highlighting those people. That's what I love about DevRel so much. And speaking of people, we've got a bunch of people on the live stream, so I just want to give some shout outs to people who are saying hello. So we've got Nelson, Lucas, Israel, Barack, Hakan, Ryan, hello and welcome to you all. We've got lots of viewers on LinkedIn. So if you are tuning in, please ask your questions. We've got a wealth of talent around the table here. We'd love to answer all your questions. This is a very rare opportunity where we've got lots of people from different companies from all over the world as well
It's true.
here in person, might I add. Like I can
Yeah.
I know.
like it's really exciting. So again, rare opportunity. So make sure you come in and ask us questions because we'd love to hear
Absolutely.
from you all.
Definitely.
I want to hear how you got started. You're saying you just got here 6 months ago.
Sort of,
How
yeah.
did it? And what I'm asking, because I feel like there is a certain underlying personality or intuition towards those who come to DevRel of being passionate. Oh my gosh, did you see the movie this weekend? There's this kind of you constantly advocating and collecting and feeding back. No.
No.
How did you get here?
How did I
Is
get
is
here?
what I love to hear. How did you?
Yeah, I can start.
You
that
know.
one.
How did it come to this?
Exactly.
We can go around the table after you're
Yeah,
done.
odd. Like if I go way back,
Yeah.
I wanted to be an accountant.
What?
Yeah.
We are the opposite.
Right?
Wow.
and there was like a love of numbers. I'm like, well, accounting's all numbers. Turns out it's not. Accounting is another form of being a lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah, basically.
So I left that and I got into computing, essentially. From there, I was like, oh, that's numbers and logic and stuff. So that was sort of my introduction to it. But it was quite late.
Yeah.
I didn't learn to, I didn't have a computer. Well, I had a Commodore 64 for games, but
Right.
I didn't have computers until I was, mid-20s, essentially, or early 20s. So from that, we were talking about this earlier today as well, is that, when is the right time to start? Well, it's now, right? You don't lose out or anything. So I got started that way, and then I was a programmer, and I wrote software. I still write software. I love writing software. And then I just, one thing after the other, I started speaking, and people listening to me, I can get someone, teach them a thing, or I can inspire them to do another thing, and I can push someone. And I started mentoring other developers and getting them to sort of realize that they could do a lot more than they thought. So there was sort of that whole, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking of it, to be honest.
It is
that
cold
whole-
in here too.
Yeah, no, I'm Danish. I don't get cold. No, not really. And then, so that whole journey just became DevRel, like what we talk about now. That's what I've been doing for 10 years because it just sort of vamped up.
Yeah.
So it's a very organic journey for me.
Yeah.
How about you? How did you get into DevRel?
Yeah, so sort of similarly circuitous. I came into the industry after literally a year of service. I was teaching, or I wasn't teaching, I was working at a Cristo Rey school in Detroit, and I was sort of roped into teaching. That was not my training. That was not what I was there to do, but I was tricked into I was tricked into teaching a group of girls web development and robotics.
That's a good thing to be tricked into.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it wound up being a great time, but I was specifically told, oh, no, you're babysitting, essentially, and it turned into much, much more than that. And I was like, I'm not going to now fail these students by just sort of sitting there and watching them flounder. I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to figure out how to teach them and what to teach them.
That's amazing.
And so I reached out to a local chapter of a nonprofit that teaches women to code. And I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Please help me. I don't know how to teach. I don't know anything. I will do whatever you need me to do. Just please help me. And they did. They were like, oh, absolutely, come and audit some classes. And that led into being a teaching assistant. And that led into teaching my own classes. And that led into leading the chapter eventually. And that, all of that happened. And I had never worked as a developer at that point. It led into writing curriculum and teaching at a coding boot camp. And that was my first job. And the community side of it just kind of grew and grew, and now I'm starting new meetups and I'm starting to organize conferences, and now I'm speaking at all over the country, and it sort of crept into my life that like now this is the thing that I do. I enjoy programming and building myself, but the thing that I really love is showing people the kind of impact that those skills can have on their lives. And that's what kind of keeps me going. And so now I'm leading the developer relations team and figuring out
Good
how
luck
to
with
do
that.
that.
I'm seeing a bit of a pattern here. We kind of all didn't really choose developer relations.
No.
Developer
same-
life chose us.
Same as me. So I studied science at university, chemistry major and geology double major. So very not DevRel. And at the end of my degree, I was like, I really like science, but I like talking about it more. I love the experiments, but I like telling people what went right and wrong and how to fix it and how to make it better. So I was like, I think I need to do some communications type stuff. So I did a Master of Communications.
Oh, cool.
After my science degree. Kind of took it the way that I wanted to do it. So I did my master's theses and essays on gaming and esports and social media and anime.
I can see you doing that. Yeah.
I just picked all this cool stuff. Everyone was doing like a bit more boring stuff. I think one of my presentations I did on like the Sphero robotics thing. We got to pick a product and give a pitch, basically a marketing pitch on it. So go for the robot, like the LED light up robot.
Yes.
Then at the end of my degrees, I was like, oh, now I've got to get a job.
Don't
I
hurt.
mean, I'd done a few things, and I was chatting to Lars about this in my interview. I'm one of those people I've got a lot of different things I like. Yeah, science, communications, like media and arts and stuff, and then science and techie and things, and being outdoors and being creative and being all that, and then also like sitting inside and reading a book. So I was like, how am I going to find a job for like that encompasses all that I am and the things that I can do? And the answer was like, not much. And so I applied for a few jobs and didn't get any of them. I was either way too overqualified because nobody wanted to hire a master's student,
Right.
or I was way too underqualified because I didn't have that magical 5-year number of
for-
experience
Yeah,
for a
5
junior
years.
position,
Exactly,
they
yeah.
want.
Oh, man.
So I eventually got headhunted by University of Melbourne to work in their science and tech division as an event and communications coordinator, which was perfect for me. So I got to do stuff like running all the TED Talks, and we had this really cool science gallery. So this beautiful blend of science and arts, which was amazing. And I really got into it. I was like, oh, this is like definitely my thing. And then someone walked into our building one day and was like, we want to run a hackathon. And everyone kind of looked around at the room and went, what the hell's a hackathon? And I'm like, I can do one. I had done one hackathon in my whole life before this.
So you were overly qualified.
About
compared to
3
everyone else,
years
yeah?
prior, I was overqualified from anyone else because no one even knew what a hackathon was. I was like, yep, I can do this. Turned around a hackathon for this company. They loved it. Everyone else heard about it. That was August. By the end of that year, I'd run 25 hackathons.
Whoa.
So now I've done like 150, or nearly getting up towards 150. I think it's like 120 or
So
130.
just about getting it.
Yeah, I'm just,
Just
I'm
getting
now
it.
kind of like
Starting
an
to click.
expert. They call me like the hackathon queen in Australia, which kind of, some of it made its way overseas. So it was very exciting when someone came back from the US and went, they'd heard of the hackathon queen over in the US. And I was like, and during running those hackathons, someone introduced me to GitHub. And I was like, what is a GitHub? What is a hub of Gits? So I learned all about GitHub, and I was like, this is really cool. And I started promoting it at the hackathons and talking to people about how cool stuff. You know, one thing led to another. I eventually got hired by GitHub to do media communications and community type stuff, and then got hired into developer relations team. So I think just like you, Lars, I was kind of doing it before it was
definitely.
really, quote unquote developer relations.
Yeah.
But back to your point, again, the thing I love most about it is just being able to talk about all the cool stuff that not just we have as GitHub, but all these other cool things that people in the community are doing. You know the best part? I didn't do any of it. So I can get really excited about it, and I don't feel like I'm egotistical because it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I can be like, check out this cool thing the community built, or check out this cool product that GitHub did. I had nothing to do with this product, so the team is really cool. So that's what I love about it, just being able to get really, really excited about stuff. So that's how I got into it.
So a geology hackathon would be really long.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Watch
could
this
do a
one.
chemistry hackathon.
okay, yeah.
That would be even more interesting.
Lithium, water. So, no, never mind.
Something along those lines. But how did you get into it?
Well, so for me, I had been looking for this job my whole life and just didn't know what it was called. So I am a traditional path, software engineer, undergrad with mathematics, software engineering, master's degree. And I was sitting behind a desk writing code 40 hours a week. And I was so unfulfilled because I just wanted to talk to people.
Totally.
And I was just like, and I would try to find reasons to give presentations at work, even though there was no space for it. Nobody wanted anything. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll do brown bag lunches. Let's do presentations. Let's talk. And then I thought that, well, maybe I need to become a manager because that is,
Oh dear.
right. Because like, okay, I get to talk to people and I get to like interact with people. And I just felt so unfulfilled. And then what ended up happening was I got a chance to teach some coding boot camps at some different universities that like gave me that feeling of like, wow, I'm actually doing something I'm really good at. But then I felt like there was still more to the story because then I was too far the other way where I wasn't close to the technology anymore. Right. And so then just one day, so talking about people in your corner who not sponsor or speak your name in rooms that you're not in. A friend of mine was just like, he got a job opportunity where they were like, hey, do you want to interview at Google for this role? And they was like, well, I'm not the right person for this, but I know this guy Mark, who would be perfect for this
That's
role.
awesome. I like that.
And then I went into the interview, and then I got this job, and this is the best job I've ever had, to be honest with you.
That's the other thing I love about DevRel
Yeah.
is people kind of look after one another.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a tweet that went out. Someone had laid off a whole bunch of developer relations people in a company, and someone was like, they retweeted and was like, this is really sad. Someone hire this person because they're really good at DevRel. That's what I just love about our industry is it's like, oh, you know, you've kind of done everything and achieved everything you need to do. Here, let's try and get you to the next company. And I think that's what's really cool about it. Is,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I forget who said it.
someone.
okay.
Everyone.
Everyone said this, but effectively, I cannot just do one thing.
Oh, yeah,
I
that was me.
cannot sit and do numbers. I cannot.
I've got 3 streams going here of this thing right now, so I
Yes.
can't just look at one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am an introvert. If I just sit and do code all day, my soul will die. I love to perform, but my true self cannot handle staying on the stage all day either. So DevRel is exactly that. The introvert, extrovert, the networking, writing, it's right there. So I have an undergrad in dance.
That's really cool.
And danced professionally for 20 years. This was
What style?
contemporary, modern. I'm ballet trained.
Can you give us a demonstration right now?
I just did 30 minutes
Oh,
ago.
you did?
Literally.
Oh, we all missed it.
I mean,
wow. So get some flexibility there.
yes. So
Yeah.
that video's coming. But dance professionally, while I was dancing in America, you work 80-hour weeks if you are a creative soul. And you're teaching, you're doing second and third jobs. And what I did was I taught myself to code in the 90s. Hi. And started using that to barter for rehearsal space, for costume design,
at you
for
go.
lighting. I
Clever,
did not
clever.
think that I could be paid to code. I was a web design developer and designer and graphic designer, and I just was using these to barter for my company. And then also doing the secretary jobs, doing da-da-da-da.
You sound like a clone of me. Or maybe the other way around, because I think you're older than me.
Little bit. I was around before 86, yes.
Yeah.
And so I was a secretary at a tech company, and 9/11 happened, and I watched live as the second plane went into the second building, and my brain went, what if you were a secretary right there, right now? And I had a panic attack, quit my job, and went back and got my master's in IT. Because I loved when I coded. Even though I was bartering, I wasn't being paid, I loved creating these things and making these little applications and whatnot. But no one would, they looked at my bachelor of dance and they were like, oh, that's nice, honey.
These are the old days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I come from. Ended up coding at Red Hat, doing that thing. Gave birth to a child in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands you can switch to part-time for up to 8 years. And the job I was doing was a strict 9 to 5 for very big customers. You could not do it part-time. So Red Hat was like, okay, your job is to find a new job inside Red Hat or outside. And so I was like, what did I love doing? I do love coding. I miss coding as much as I used to. And I miss performing. By then I had retired. So I wasn't performing anymore. And I started applying to these tech conferences. And I was like, I think I could speak. And it turns out dance is a very good base for performing on stage, even if you're talking about technical
Like your
things.
intros would be great. Like your walk-ups on stage, like you've just got it all covered.
Go
Got
on
the
then.
body.
Well, so related to what you're saying, how many of us at the table are either artists or musicians in some way?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
kind of.
Artist?
I've done some design stuff.
You
like,
are.
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I can
You
dance
are.
though. I can dance.
You're
That's why I
creative.
asked what kind.
No, I feel like DevRel has a certain technical side,
Yeah.
and there's a certain creative
I
side.
take 6 million photos. Does that count?
It
Yeah.
100% counts.
And I did
Photography
find
is
this quote
creative.
as well. This is from Jeff
Yeah.
Hunt, who's at GitPod, travels around in a van in Australia. And yeah, he calls the jack of all trades job. And his quote is, a software developer, a marketer, a brand manager, an integrations manager, a business development partner, a domain expert, a public speaker, and an event manager, and a technical writer walk into the bar. They order a glass of scotch. After all, it's been a long day of jet setting and hand holding as a developer advocate. So I think that kind of like, it's probably not even all the jobs listed there, but it's
So it
kind
all
of just
felt
like,
very right hearing that.
it's really kind of encompassing that
Yeah.
holistic viewpoint of like all the different things that we do in developer relations. Like even if we're just doing, say for example, we're doing one thing, whether it's content creation.
Yeah.
That is happening on multiple different what we're doing right now is content creation.
Yeah.
But then I'll go home, back to the hotel, I'll go write a blog post.
Social media. Yep.
But then it's also the type of things that we're actually creating content about. I feel
Exactly.
is so varied.
Yes.
Too. Like just before here in this amazing studio, I did a short on a new announcement that we did for GitHub. Then immediately after, I filmed one on a CFP for speakers. So it's like there's just so many different things that we
Yeah.
can do, and that's what I love about this.
That's
job.
100%.
But wait, I have one question before we
Yeah.
go forward. I want to figure out how you got your big break thing
Yes.
into DevRel.
Yes, continue.
It was 100% an engineering manager. So I ended up joining the engineering department at Red Hat. And I was programming, but meanwhile, these CFPs came through, and I got accepted to every single one.
And you're like,
which
what do I do now?
I do not recommend.
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
layer that out. But I got accepted, and I did a talk, and I got back, and my boss said, "How did that go?" And I said, "Wow, really, really well. I loved that." And he goes, "Cool."
You're doing more.
No, he didn't say anything. I went and did another one because I was accepted to like 3.
Yeah.
And so I did another one. I get back. My boss said, "How did it go?" I said, "Great. I can't believe this is happening." And he goes, "What do you have coming up?" And, I had this third one. It was a DevConf in Czech Republic. And he goes, "I'll be there." And I was like, cool. This is fine. He watches the third talk. And then after he goes, "I really think that I cannot be your manager because I've got all of these engineers and their performances are based on programming and bug fixes and they're not giving talks. If they were giving talks, it would be above and beyond. But you're giving talks and then you do some bug fixes and help with that, except that you are impacting, what I was doing at the time was impacting a very specific installer that was getting all this feedback that he had never seen before, which was awesome. So he was seeing the value, and he is the one that advocated for me to join the open source program office at Red Hat, because that's what I was doing, was I was a developer advocate. So I should be in that department.
Right.
I had and that was luck, though. It was someone else going, "You're not supposed to be here," but it's not that you don't belong. It's just you would be happier here.
And I think that's the other cool thing about DevRel. Aside from all the other DevRel people looking after one another, I've found that all the really good managers will just like go, "You're doing really good at this thing, keep doing that thing, or we can plonk you over here," even if it's not within our company. I think that's what the cool thing is, because like often people will go, "Well, isn't that just like a competitive thing, you're losing good talent?" It's like, yeah, but they're staying within the industry. And if one company in this industry wins, we all win and we all come up together.
100%.
And I think that's what's really cool too.
Yeah.
I think it's very different to other traditional industries where it's a bit more like cutthroat, dog eat dog, no, all the people are mine and not yours.
Yeah.
But with tech, it's like we know that most people, if I say, what's your tech stack, you'll probably list me like 10 things off the top of your head, right? So I think that's really cool, is that we can all kind of integrate and
And as you move from company to company, particularly in developer relations, like you hold on to those relationships, and that gives you a basis to form partnerships.
Yeah.
So, you know, the all the conversations that I had in my last role, the things that we started to build together, like that doesn't go away because I, you know, no longer have Slack access.
Yes.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So is it DevRel forever for everyone at the table?
I feel like
I'm feeling
as
it.
long as you are taking care of yourself, because I feel like one of the job titles that was missing from that joke was psychologist,
Yeah.
because you have to
Yeah.
take care of yourself in your
I was gonna ask
community
that.
and
That
whatnot.
was, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
what do you do to-
100%.
What
Like,
do you do when you don't DevRel?
well, that's the thing is that I will DevRel forever as long as I am taking care of myself first.
But
I
like, what
think.
else is there? Like,
Right?
but I'm hearing from around the table where all these kind of people who love all these different things. We love the community. We love creating content, whether it's sitting down writing it at our desk or, you know, being in front of an audience. So, like, where else can you do that?
No.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I
But it's-
thrive off of
Yeah, I
the
don't know. For me, it's important to have the other side of things as well. So that-
calm.
yeah. So I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors. And that's where we were talking. I don't know, I think you mentioned before, Rain, that was, you have that, you know, introvert, extrovert. I'm not sure I subscribe to that sort of black and white, but it's more like, where do you recharge? So I come
Where
here.
do you reach it? You
Well,
go to
that's
the
thing.
farm, yeah?
I come here for 3.5 days, and I'm on 16 hours a day, and I love it. And then I go home and I fall over, right? Because it's no.
So this is recharging for me.
yeah, right.
And I'm the
Oh,
opposite.
nice.
Yeah.
So I figured out, because when people say like introvert, extrovert, I always thought it was like extroverts are like, "Wah!"
No,
and
it's where you get
introverts
your
like,
energy.
but
Yeah.
it's where you get the energy.
Absolutely.
So the lady who told, it was actually in a psychology lecture at Melbourne University, and she's like, and this was after like 6 weeks of lectures. She's like, oh, by the way, I'm an introvert, and I'm like, but how? She's so like on and exciting, and she's like, yeah, but after this, I'm gonna go sit in a room for 3 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, see, that's the opposite for me. I stand on stage and I'm like for however long, and I'm like getting all this energy from everyone. Then I can like run around in crowds and like talk to people. But it's the opposite for me. If I'm like sitting in a room by myself, I'm like, all my energy's just draining away from me, and I have to like sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And it's so important to
different.
recognize that where you get that from, right?
Right. Where do you get it
so.
from?
So you go to the farm.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I have, you know, I love Lego. I love cars. I got too many cars. The farm is an old piece of crap, really. So I'll be renovating it. So
Damn.
that's another thing. Right. And I've
Good
got-
project.
Yeah, project. Which
Are you managing that on GitHub projects?
No. I recorded it all and put it on
Wow.
YouTube though.
I see what you did
Oh,
there.
so yeah, I'll say about that.
I put it all on YouTube, right? And that was to your point, you know, as long as our boss, will let us do whatever it is that we're good at, right?
Yep.
You know, it comes back.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think it's super important to recognize that yes, we're in DevRel, but we also have there's a
We
human
need that
side,
time.
right?
So as a family man, like for me, family time with my immediate family, like my wife and my kid, like away from the computer screens, like that is largely and wildly restorative for me.
Lego.
You know, so
Lego.
going like I really like to be outside now, and I didn't like it so much before, but like now I really love like hikes in the mountain or like going through like forest preserves, and like watching my kid just be like enthralled with nature.
Oh yeah.
That's like amazing to me, and like that is so restorative to think that he'll have all these memories of these things that we did,
Yep.
and that just energizes me to continue to work hard, so that way I can continue to provide that flexibility and freedom
Yes.
for him to live that life and for me to be able to enjoy it. But and I really enjoy being on stage. So very similar to you, like when I tell people that I'm so much better live than I am like on virtual. Like if you see
Oh,
me
yeah.
live,
Yeah.
it's a whole experience.
Same.
And it's because up there, like
You're
really
feeling it,
Oh,
yeah.
I feel it. I
It
feel
doesn't
it.
quite come out of the screen. Like I'm happy there's
Right.
people like watching right now, but I'm just
It's
not
not the
feeling the
same.
energy.
It's
Whereas I'm
not the
feeling the
same,
energy
so-
from camera. But yes, we love you all on stream.
Yeah, but either way, but then I need to go back though to the hotel room, like from traveling. Like I was at Render ATL last week, and after giving my talk, I gave 120% of myself, and I was like drained, like even as an extrovert, like who loves people, I was drained. I needed to go back.
It's also the last 2 years we haven't really had this
That's also true.
opportunity.
So-
So
Yeah.
So we got farm, we got hiking. What's your relaxation or recharging?
So I'm also hardcore extrovert, which I didn't understand for the longest time. It wasn't until I met my partner, who is hardcore introvert.
Complimentary.
Yes, because I'm on the quiet side. You know, growing up, I was super shy, and I didn't understand really what it meant. And so it wasn't until I was older, in my early 20s, that I was like, oh no, actually, being in community with people is what gives me that energy. And so for me, it's become board gaming.
Oh,
That's
great. Yeah.
that's the
Let's
thing
go.
that's kind of the overlap for me and my partner, is he loves it too, and he'll stay for hours and hours and like try to convince people to stay at our house to play more games.
You're like, no,
And,
I've got to sleep. We love you, but we need to sleep.
Exactly, to the point where like, we are actually opening a board game store together.
So cool. Congrats.
Like trying to create that gaming community for ourselves in Detroit.
Yes.
Love that.
And what's your recharge?
I am an escape room addict. If you do an escape room with me, you are enabling me, and I am here for it.
I am hyper competitive, if you haven't noticed, so I will come do an escape room.
Yes.
That was
yes.
great. That was great.
Yes. And before COVID, that's one of the things I was known for. Like when we traveled a lot before, some people would collect wines or beers or pubs. I collected escape rooms, and I had a budget such that I could just collect, 7 to 20 random strangers from the conference and be like, would you like to do an escape room with me? And we'd all go do an escape room, instant bond.
Oh, well, it's just about time.
We're almost
Yeah.
there.
And
Escape
we might be doing one here this afternoon.
Ooh,
Just
I'm
saying.
so in. We're almost wrapping up, but yeah, my recharge is I love hiking, and I go in the middle of nowhere, so that even if I wanted to, I can't check any socials or internet, because there literally is no
That's
internet
not hard
reception.
in Australia.
There does not exist.
That's not hard.
It's really not hard in Australia. My family house doesn't have internet.
Exactly.
So
don't have mobile
your
connection in
farm
my
probably
house.
doesn't
Nope,
have
I
internet.
have not.
Like
Oh, I got
it's an
Starlink, though.
actual thing. We could probably go on forever about how Australia doesn't have internet, but we are at time. So I want to thank you all so much for being here and sharing all of your experiences around DevRel. Thanks to everyone on the live stream on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn for tuning in. Thank you so much. If you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, or I know we talked a lot anyway, feel free to find us all on Twitter, Twitch. Some of you are on, I think.
What's
yeah.
Twitch?
What's Twitch? I mean, we're live on Twitch now, but yeah, feel free to find us on Twitter or Instagram or all over the web. As we've said, we're very out there, social, on the interwebs people. So come find us at a conference, at a talk.
Yep.
And thank you all for being here.
Thank
And thank you for hosting.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I got thrown
Permission.
into this last minute, so
And shout out to Pluralsight for making this
yes,
happen.
thank you so much for this
Pluralsight,
wonderful
let's
studio we
go.
get to sit in, and also the amazing team behind the scenes. This doesn't happen without awesome people like that. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.